traders, Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com, September 27th, 2020. In this edition of your weekend video newsletter, we'll discuss the wild ride we had last week in the markets, while a new stock market rally attempt is underway, having ended the week on a high note. We're watching the FANG stocks as well, growth stocks starting to show signs that they've been bought up. The bond stock ratio is neutral. Most of our indicators are neutral. 17 in all, 2 are bullish and 1 is bearish. NYMO and NAMO trying to change direction. Tick and Tick Q is green. We're looking for that trend break and a move higher this week. We have a descending wedge on the S&P 500 and the spiders that we pointed out last week, where price needs to break above that upper trend line around 332 or 333. Heat maps are neutral, looking a little better last week. XLY XRP ratio is still bullish. We did have a little bit of a minor change in both the S&P 500 sectors and the international markets. Looking for Mexico, Turkey, Spain, Italy, and France to continue higher this week. IBD 50, we have a lot of setups that are looking really good. In addition to MarketSmith Growth 250, stocks showing relative strength at new highs, and stocks in green that show funds are continuing to buy going into this new week. With Bukowski showing 5 of 5 green with his CPI signal red since August the 18th, with 5 bearish patterns this week, 4 bullish patterns, and 218 patterns waiting for breakout. Bottom line, it's neutral. We need to break out of this descending wedge on the S&P 500 and the spiders. The trend is still a little bit under pressure, but we're looking for a rally attempt to follow through that we saw last week. Look for resistance at 3,500 and 3,200 as support. The SPY 60-minute chart, which we shared with you on Tuesday and Wednesday, held this 322 level, testing it 3 times last week. RSI is back above 50 on this 60-minute time frame. We do have resistance overhead. These volume by price bars show where most of the price action had traded during the month of August and September. So look for resistance at that level. If we make it through that level and RSI continues to rally, we see increasing volume, we could have a follow-through on this trend breakout to start the week. SPY Daily is dealing with an RSI that needs to get above 50. We have resistance overhead, this failed base where we broke down Friday previously going into last week. We're coming up against that resistance now right around that 330 to 331 level. Need to get above the 50-day, and the 21-day RSI needs to continue higher. We did see increasing volume, but it was below the previous distribution days that we saw. Stochastics is turning higher, so this could lead to a follow-through in the short term. Shifting gears and looking at the NASDAQ, we do have a bounce off of the 20-period moving average on the weekly time frame. RSI remains above 50, and we did see an increase in volume. That said, the NASDAQ daily, we need to get above the 50-day moving average for starters, then the 21-day. RSI would lead through 50 most likely, and we need to see an increase in volume. MACD is turning ever so slightly, and stochastics is leading us higher. If everything works this week for a risk-on trade, we'd like to see IWM continue the bounce that we saw last week. This weekly time frame showing buyers stepped up, pushing price action back above the 50-period moving average. RSI remains above 50. Look for IWM to continue higher, and for other risk-on assets like HYG, junk, and biotechs to continue higher. The growth versus value ratio in the upper panel continues to rise. It's telling you that growth stocks, the FANG stocks if you will, continue to look more bullish and looking for a trend higher to hopefully follow through into the S&P 1500. The S&P 500 big caps, 400 mid caps, and 600 small caps need to turn back up. We're on a red signal. We've produced a lot of red elder sticks. This needs to change direction. If we're going to get a rally, we need to see a turn for the bullish direction and a follow through this week, with this chart currently more bearish than bullish in the short term. If that does happen, we'd most likely see the XII ARCA Institutional Index move higher. These 75 stocks most commonly held in institutions' core portfolios need to get back above the 50-period moving average this week. If that does happen, we should see VIX continue to give us a bullish signal going into this next week of trading. When it's green, we're looking for higher highs and higher lows on the 60-minute time frame. A nice way to end the week. We'll look for that to follow through this week. And finally, we'd like to see breadth improving. NYMO and NAMO are having a bit of difficulty trying to trend back towards the zero line and move higher. We do see these Zweig breadth thrust indicators moving higher. The top panel is the S&P 500 advanced decline percent. The mid caps, the small caps, and the NASDAQ 100 all moving higher. NASDAQ is leading again. We saw that move through zero, with the S&P 500 closest, and then the mid caps and small caps following. So we need to see these breadth indicators continue higher to tell us that more stocks are participating on the rally into the last week of September, starting the first week of October trading on Thursday. The bond stock ratio is mostly neutral in the lower panel. It's below the 65-period moving average. It looks like it wants to turn and move lower again. So we'll look for a follow through and a move lower, which would be bullish for equities. A move higher back above the 65-period moving average would be bearish. The short duration bonds like SHI, the 3-year IEF, the 7-10-year TLT, the 20-year all look very similar, moving sideways for much of the last few weeks with very little volume on the moves slightly higher on Friday. Junk bonds and high yield corporate debt all look pretty much the same, coming down and testing the 65-period moving average on the weekly time frame. Buyers stepping up towards the end of the week looking for a bounce. Volume did pick up. Stochastics is moving lower. It's about oversold. As long as it stays above the 65-period moving average, that would be bullish for equities. Right now, it appears to be a little bit under pressure, but buyers did step up nonetheless. So look for follow through higher if you're bullish equities, and a move lower if you are bearish. The British pound US dollar Forex pair moving a bit lower. That should be bullish for the FTSE and the London Stock Exchange if that continues to move in the bearish direction. So keep an eye on that. As the US dollar continues to break out, clearly moving very quickly through the 50-period moving average. We've got a crossover, shorter time frames on the 20 and the 10 EMA crossing up. We've got the 200-period overhead, and RSI is rising. Look for strength to persist in the US dollar. That'll put pressure on gold and commodities. As we saw on the daily time frames, we broke below the 50-period moving average. We told you we'd probably drop into this reverse Kirby. Look for support down in this area, the previous breakout. We still consider the inflation picture very important for the long term on gold. If you look at the monthly time frame, it still looks very bullish. Completing this cup pattern, a little pullback and consolidation would be fine. We're looking for a longer term picture for gold to be much higher over the next few years. That said, short and medium term, if you're into construction related names, builders, home improvement, construction product suppliers, you want to see copper continue to move higher. We'd like to have a little bounce off of this consolidation zone or base and for copper to move higher. Finally, we have West Texas and Brent crude over the last 3 or 4 weeks consolidating a range between 37 and say 42, 43 in a range. Looking for a break higher if you're bullish for equities. You want to see crude oil moving in a bullish direction, higher highs, higher lows, as it has a positive correlation to the equity market. The sector heat map modest improvement really is pretty much neutral. We saw some strength in biotechs last week. The technology sector, internet, semiconductors, and telecom saw some improvement. Looking for a follow through there. International markets, as we said previously, we saw some improvement in Mexico and the European countries. China was weak going into the last 3 trading days of September. The consumer staples to consumer discretionary ratio continues to move higher as long as these lines are continuing north and not flattening out or moving south. This is bullish for equities. This is bearish positioning that we saw back in February. We had a very quick rollover. Even if you missed the first week of the descent between the 21st of February and the 24th, the gap down on Monday, you still missed about a 30% drawdown after that week, and we got the signal to turn lower. Just like we did when we flattened out back in late 2018, we had a full 3 or 4 months before the markets rolled over in October and November of 2018, leading to a 20% drawdown. So watch this ratio between consumer discretionary and consumer staples. It's currently bullish for equities. Sectors, we're watching transports very near the 21-day, trying to move above it this week. The rest of these sectors are below the 20 and 50-day moving averages. Watch utilities trying to show a little bit of strength, but we've had a lot of weakness. We're looking for a follow-through this week. Technology in particular, industrials would be good. Really need financials to get with the program, showing weakness. Consumer discretionary, the one sector that if you are looking for improvement, you want to see consumers spending money. We're at the 50-day moving average. We'd like to see this bounce back above the 21-day in the short term. Look for retail stocks in particular to move higher, and you are bullish equities. Make sure you check out all of the stocks listed here. This is the most bullish I've seen IBD 50 stocks in quite some time. Nearly the entire list is bullish and most likely will follow through. In addition to MarketSmith Growth 250 relative strength names at highs in white below the IBD 50 and also in green stocks that are showing funds have been buying, in addition to the Dow Industrials. That said, let's take a look at the IBD 50. This is a 5-minute chart on all of these names. Note where they've finished relative to VWAP, the purple dashed line below. Almost all of these stocks finished the day above VWAP and rising. That's a very bullish sign, with most of the stocks on the list accomplishing a close near the highs of the session. Looking at the stock's performance, we can see that there's only a few that pull back out of the IBD 50. So 47 are green and 3 are bearish. The top 10, most of these names you're already familiar with. ASML, while it's below the 50-day moving average, we're looking for a push higher. RSI needs to get above 50 to render a good setup. The thing we're looking at is stochastics is oversold and turning higher, and volume started to increase towards the end of the week. Activision looking bullish for the same reason, looking for RSI to continue higher and stochastic to turn back up. Adobe, another, above the 50-day moving average in this case, and volume by price support, looking for RSI to continue higher and stochastics to move off of oversold, rendering a bullish setup, looking for a follow-through this week. AMD, if semiconductors show bullishness this week, this is one of my favorite setups. I'd like to see AMD back up at the highs, RSIs rising through 50, and stochastics is coming up from oversold. This is a good setup with MACD turning and volume starting to increase. Akamai, same idea, RSI higher, price above the 50-day, stochastics moving higher, and MACD is already crossed and resuming the bullish trend. Alexion, same idea, gets above these volume by price bands, look for a test of the recent highs, RSI is already above 50, showing a trend that should be respected. Stochastic looking for that to turn up and volumes to increase this week. Alibaba looks good as well, looking for a bounce off the 50-day and a follow-through on increasing volume. Amazon, a number of you traded this on Thursday and Friday, looking good. I know Russell was in this pretty heavy, looking for a follow-through this week. Big lots, again, we're looking for consumer discretionary, and for the consumers to continue buying, we like to see big lots popping on above average volume. Stochastics is rising. Bristol Myers Squibb, while below the 50-day, we're seeing RSI strength. Stochastic moving higher, MACD cross, and volume starting to pick up. If we get above the 50-day moving average, it'll be above this volume by price band resistance, and then we could see 52-week highs and potentially a triple top test and maybe a breakout going into the end of the year. Cadence Design, another stock below the 50-day, RSI rising, looking very strong, looking for a follow-through this week. Volume increased on Thursday and Friday. MACD is turning about to cross, and Stochastics is moving higher. Apps Turbine, APPS, Digital Turbine, APPS, we're looking for a follow-through, volume to increase. Dollar General, Target, many of these stocks, including Walmart, all look like they're going to continue higher this week, even though it's a bit overbought. Maybe it takes a little bit of a rest, but we're looking for a follow-through nonetheless. Integris, ENTG, looking for a follow-through. It's above the 50-day. RSI is rising. Respect the trend. The trend is bullish. Volume increasing. MACD has crossed, and Stochastics is moving higher. Horizon Therapeutics, I know a number of you were trading this last week, including Mikey. Looking for a follow-through. Trending above the 21-day. RSI is above 50, and Stochastics just needs to turn back up. Watch the volume and look for a pop this week. Innovative industrial properties tied to the cannabis, medical cannabis growing, indoor climate-controlled warehouses. Company specializes in. We're looking for a push and a continuation above the 21-day, RSI above 50, volume to increase, and Stochastics to turn back up over the next couple of weeks. Lowe's managing to stay above the 50-day moving average while Home Depot is below. Look for a bounce and a follow-through. RSI is above 50. Stochastics needs to turn back up, and we need to see volume increase. Microsoft, a number of you were trading this last week. In the trading room, I saw you posting and following. I just didn't take a position. I'd like to take a position in Microsoft. Look for 52-week highs. RSI is rising. Volume is increasing. We've got a MACD cross coming. Stochastics is oversold. This looks like a good setup coming into this week. If we can follow through on Monday, Tuesday, and stay above the 50-day, I think you got a tiger by the tail. Netflix, a number of you taken this one last week, looking for a follow-through push above 50. All the same ideas. Stochastics coming from oversold, MACD will cross, and we need to see more volume. Nvidia, same idea. Following through, it's above the 21-day and the 50-day. Looks best. AMD, Nvidia, Intel, LRCX, we're looking for all of those chip stocks to follow through. Stochastics is moving higher off of oversold, and volume is increasing on NVIDIA. Palo Alto Networks, another one below the 50-day and 21-day, looking for a follow-through this week. With volume increasing, watch RVOL to start the day. Square, PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, keep an eye on all of these payment processors. If consumer discretionary continues higher, we'd expect to see all of these payment processors moving higher as well. Also keep an eye on Discover Financial. That one has been doing well, although I haven't checked it recently. Look for follow-through on above average volume. Stochastics is rising. PerkinElmer, this one looks like it's ready to catapult higher. RSI is above 50. Volume increased on Thursday and Friday, and Stochastics is trying to turn back up. SciPlay, we're looking at this one again this week. That one, we looked at it last week. We got a little dip with a bounce on Thursday, Friday as buyers stepped up. Stamps.com, nice follow-through. I know Rob was trading this one last week. It was on the watch list, looking for a follow-through and a move above the 50-day as RSI continues to point higher. MACD's crossed, volume increasing, and Stochastics continues higher. Synopsys, looking for a follow-through above this volume by price band. We should see a quick test of 52-week highs. RSI is rising, volume increasing. MACD is about to cross, and Stochastics is rising from oversold. With all of those criteria, a prescription for a bullish follow-through. Looking for Teradyne to move higher out of this base, just like FTNT, which I didn't review, but looks very similar. Thermo Fisher, looking for a bounce. This one was talked heavily 2 weeks ago on halftime report. With fund managers buying the stock, we're looking for a bounce off the 50-day and a push higher on above average volume. Viva Systems, I got a feeling this one's going to break higher soon. In addition to Vertex Pharmaceuticals, volume increasing, price action heading towards the 50-day, anticipating Stochastics will rise above 50 this week. VC Properties, Holding at the 50-day, nice bullish day on Friday. RSI is above 50. Look for this one to follow through. Stochastics is turning and pointing to a potential pop back up to 52-week highs. West Pharmaceutical, another healthcare name, looking like it could push higher this week. And one of my favorite setups for the week ahead, Workday looks really bullish, looking for a follow-through. RSI is rising rapidly. We need to see more volume. MACD is about to cross, and Stochastics has plenty of room to the upside to give us 10-15 points. Stocks from the funds or buying list from IBD, all of these looking good. Many of these you've seen before. NX is one that I'm watching this week. We've got DraftKings back on the list. Fiverr, many of you were asking about this one on Thursday and Friday. Nice follow through. Fastly looks like it's about to spring off the 21-day. DraftKings looks like it wants to break out. If you look at the volume on DraftKings, it's so obvious institutions have been picking up shares that it renders a potential for a breakout this week. Stocks showing relative strength at new highs from the Market Smith Growth 250. All of these look good, giving us a bullish follow through. Looking for a breakout this week. RSI is rising. BAND, this one got a lot of press last week. Looking for a follow through. Look at the volume. Canadian Solar and many of the solar names are looking very hot. Run, First Solar, and many others moving higher on above average volume. Centos is very economically sensitive. This company sells and rents corporate identity and uniforms to over 1 million clients worldwide. That's a good indication. If we continue to see a follow through this week, RSI is rising. FedEx also looking good. Many of you trading FedEx last week. Look for a follow through. HubSpot looking for a breakout. You can see all of these stocks showing relative strength. Look at these candles. Look at these setups. They all look good. INOV looking for a follow through. Ginkgo Solar, another one that broke out last week in the solar group. Follow through. Really big move. NTRA looking for a breakout. Above average volume, MACD crossing, stochastics rising. NLS, Nautilus Group, based in Vancouver. This fitness company looks like it's about ready to break out. Watch Peloton too. Peloton looks very strong. Looking for a follow through this week. Look at the volume. That's definitely institutions picking up shares. Qualcomm. This had a little bit of a dip on Friday, but it managed to hold its own. Looking for a follow through on above average volume. Stochastics rising. ServiceNow looks like it's going to continue higher this week as well. And Square, which we saw some bullish action on Thursday and Friday. Volume started to increase. And United Parcel looking for a breakout as well. Look for BSLR, another solar name, breaking out, fairly inexpensive. Looking for follow through. In addition to Zillow, you know a lot of people are moving out of the more crowded blue states. Not a political comment, it's just a fact. Zillow should see a follow through as that continues. Okay, traders, that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com with your weekend video newsletter. I'll send out a watch list between 11:30 and 12 on the East Coast and around 8:30 to 9 o'clock on the West Coast. Make sure you check for that in your inbox. Otherwise, I hope this helps. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.